The crystal chandelier cast fractured light across the marble floor of the Hart Industries headquarters in Manhattan. Amelia Hart stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of the 72nd floor, watching the city pulse below like a living organism. At 26, she had perfected the art of appearing bored while calculating every exit in a room. "Miss Hart, your father is ready for you," the assistant said, keeping a careful distance. Amelia didn't turn. She'd been through 14 personal assistants in 3 years. This one, Claire, had lasted 6 months, a record. "Tell him I'm busy contemplating whether to fire the entire marketing department or just half of them. He said it's about the Moretti arrangement." That made Amelia turn. Her designer heels clicked against marble as she crossed to the double doors of her father's office. Richard Hart sat behind a desk that cost more than most people's homes, his silver hair perfectly styled, his expression unreadable. "The Moretti family wants to discuss logistics," he said without preamble. "You'll attend tonight's dinner." "The mob?" Amelia raised an eyebrow. "We're in bed with organized crime now? We're diversifying our security infrastructure. Luca Moretti runs the most effective private protection network on the East Coast. Legitimate business, mostly." "Mostly." Amelia laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Does the board know you're shaking hands with killers?" Richard's jaw tightened. "You'll be there at 8. Wear something that doesn't make you look like you're attending a funeral." "I'll wear whatever reminds people that I could buy and sell them before dessert." Across the city, in a renovated warehouse in Red Hook, Brooklyn, Luca Moretti reviewed the Hart Industries file for the 3rd time. At 38, he'd built an empire that existed in the gray spaces between legal and lethal. His younger sister, Lucia, smiled at him from the photo on his desk, 14 years old, frozen in time, forever laughing at something he could no longer remember. "Boss, the car's ready," Marco said from the doorway. His second-in-command had been with him since they were teenagers running protection rackets in Little Italy. Luca closed the file. "The daughter will be there?" "Amelia Hart. Word is, she's difficult. They all are until they're not." Luca stood, adjusting his cufflinks. The suit was Tom Ford, the watch Patek Philippe. He'd learned early that appearing civilized made people underestimate the violence he was capable of. "What do we know about her?" 26, MBA from Columbia, sits on the board. Survived a kidnapping attempt when she was 19 3 days, ransomed for $20 million. No one knows what happened during that time. She doesn't talk about it. Luca's hand paused on his jacket. Kidnapping. The word always felt like a knife between his ribs. "Security? Elite team. Ex-military. She fires them constantly." "Interesting." Luca checked his reflection one last time. The man staring back looked nothing like the boy who'd pulled his sister's body from the Hudson River 15 years ago. That boy had drowned with her. What remained was something colder, sharper, more useful. The restaurant was the kind where menus had no prices, and everyone spoke in hushed tones about market fluctuations and offshore accounts. Amelia arrived deliberately late, a power move she'd perfected by age 12. Richard Hart stood as she approached, along with 2 men she didn't recognize. One was clearly muscle-broad shoulders, alert eyes that tracked every movement in the room. The other made her pause. Luca Moretti was tall, dark-haired, with the kind of face that belonged in Renaissance paintings. But it was his eyes that struck her gray as winter storms, and just as cold. He didn't smile, didn't extend his hand, didn't perform any of the usual social niceties. "You're late," her father said. "I'm here." Amelia sat without waiting for invitation. "Let's skip the small talk. You want to legitimize your operation by partnering with us. We want access to your security network without the Justice Department asking questions. What's the catch?" Luca finally spoke. His voice was low, controlled, direct. "I appreciate that." "I don't care what you appreciate," Amelia said. "I want to know why a criminal thinks he can sit at the same table as legitimate business owners." The muscle Marco stiffened, but Luca held up a hand. He leaned back in his chair, studying Amelia with the intensity of someone examining a potentially dangerous animal. "Legitimate," he repeated. "That's interesting coming from a company that built its fortune on defense contracts and surveillance technology sold to dictatorships." Amelia's smile didn't reach her eyes. "At least we wear expensive suits while doing it. You just dress like us." "Miss Hart," her father began, but Luca interrupted. "No, let her talk. I want to understand who I'm working with." He turned to Amelia, and for a moment, something flickered in those gray eyes. Something that might have been amusement, or threat. You think I'm a criminal in a costume. That's fine. But here's what I know: you've been through 3 security teams in 18 months. Either you're difficult to protect, or you're trying to prove something. Which is it? The table fell silent. Amelia felt her father's warning glare, but she couldn't look away from Luca. There was something unsettling about someone who didn't flinch from her aggression. I'm difficult, she said finally. At least I don't pretend to be something I'm not. Luca nodded slowly. Fair enough. Then let's be honest with each other, Miss Hart. Your father needs my network because someone inside your organization is leaking information to your competitors. 3 separate breaches in 6 months. Your legitimate security can't find the source because they're playing by legitimate rules. He paused. I don't. Amelia glanced at her father, who looked away. So it was true. And what do you want in return? Access to your logistics software. The tracking algorithms specifically. For completely legal purposes, of course. Of course. Amelia picked up her wine glass, studying the dark red liquid. You're laundering your operations through our infrastructure. That's what this is about. I'm diversifying, Luca corrected, like your father said. Legitimate business, mostly. Mostly. Their eyes met across the table, and Amelia felt something shift. This wasn't the usual dynamic, powerful men trying to intimidate her while secretly hoping for her approval. Luca Moretti looked at her like she was a problem to be solved, not a prize to be won. 1-month trial period, she said. You find the leak, we'll talk about long-term arrangements. Fail, and you disappear from our world. Agreed. Luca stood, buttoning his jacket. But there's one condition. I don't negotiate conditions after agreeing to terms. You do for this one. Luca's expression remained neutral, but his voice dropped. When I find the leak, and I will, you'll let me handle it my way. No police, no lawyers, no board meetings. My way. Amelia stood as well, meeting his gaze. She was tall, but he still had 3 inches on her. Your way means bodies, doesn't it? It means problems that disappear. Luca extended his hand finally. Do we have an understanding? She looked at his hand for a long moment. Large, scarred knuckles, a thin white line across his palm, hands that had done terrible things and would do more. She took it. 1 month, she said. His grip was firm, warm. He held on a moment longer than necessary. See you soon, Miss Hart. As he walked away, Marco following, Amelia sat back down. Her father was already signaling for more wine. That was reckless, Richard said. That was necessary. Amelia watched Luca's retreating figure. He's right about the leak. And if he's as effective as his reputation suggests, we need him. He's dangerous. Good. Amelia smiled, but it felt brittle. So am I. 4 days later, Amelia left a board meeting at 11 p.m., her head pounding from 6 hours of arguing about quarterly projections. The parking garage was emptier than usual. Most executives had left hours ago. Her heels echoed against concrete as she walked toward her Tesla. She'd dismissed her security detail 3 months ago after the lead agent suggested she was too emotional to evaluate threats properly. She'd fired him on the spot and told the others to find new employment. The first sign something was wrong was the silence. The usual hum of ventilation systems, the distant traffic, all of it seemed muffled, distant. Amelia's hand went to her phone. But before she could dial, a figure stepped from behind a concrete pillar. Male, medium height, wearing a ski mask. Amelia Hart, he said. Not a question. She ran. Years of cross-country training and 3 months of unused gym membership meant she was fast, but not fast enough. He caught her near the stairwell, slamming her against the wall hard enough to knock the air from her lungs. Nothing personal, he said, and she saw the syringe in his hand. Then gunfire. 2 shots, suppressed but loud in the enclosed space. The man holding her jerked, released her, stumbled backward. Amelia dropped to the ground, her ears ringing. More figures emerged from the shadows. For a terrifying moment, she thought she was surrounded. Then she recognized Marco, and behind him, Luca Moretti. Luca walked past her like she wasn't there, grabbed the injured attacker, and slammed him against the same wall he'd used on Amelia. Who sent you? The man spat blood. Go to hell. Wrong answer. Luca's voice was conversational, almost friendly. He pressed his thumb into the bullet wound in the man's shoulder. The scream echoed through the parking garage. Luca. Amelia found her voice. What are you doing here? Saving your life. He didn't look at her, focused on the attacker. I'm going to ask one more time. Who? Sent. You. The man's resolve broke. Inside job. Corporate. That's all I know. They paid through a shell company. Name of the company. Meridian Holdings. Jesus Christ, that's all I know. Luca released him, let him slide to the ground. He turned to Marco. Clean this up. No police. Find everything about Meridian Holdings by morning. Boss, the security footage. I'll handle it. Finally, Luca looked at Amelia. She was still on the ground, her back against cold concrete, staring at the blood on her hands, not hers, she realized. The attackers. Luca approached slowly, like she was a wounded animal. He crouched in front of her, gray eyes scanning for injuries. Are you hurt? How did you know? Her voice sounded distant to her own ears. I've been monitoring your security since we made our deal. Or lack of security. His tone held no judgment, just statement of fact. You fired your entire team. That was stupid. I don't need protection. You're bleeding from your temple, you almost got kidnapped or killed, and you're arguing with the person who just saved you. Luca stood, offering his hand. You're in shock. Come on. Amelia looked at his hand. The same scarred hand from the restaurant. She took it, let him pull her up. Her legs felt unstable. I'm calling my father, she said. No. Luca's grip on her hand tightened. Your father hired those men. The parking garage tilted. What? Meridian Holdings is a subsidiary of Hart Industries. Buried deep, but it's there. Marco found it yesterday. Luca's expression was carefully neutral. Someone in your family wants you dead or gone. Until we know who, you're not safe anywhere near them. That's insane. My father wouldn't. Maybe not your father. Who else sits on the board? Who else has access to those shell companies? Amelia's mind raced. Her uncle Charles, her father's business partner, Victor Reeves, half a dozen executives who resented her position, her age, her refusal to play politics. I don't know, she whispered. Then until we do, you're with me. Luca started walking toward the exit, still holding her hand. Marco, bring her car. We're going to the Brooklyn safe house. I'm not going anywhere with you. Luca stopped, turned. For the first time, she saw something other than cold calculation in his eyes. Anger, maybe, or fear. Miss Hart. Amelia. He took a breath. Someone just tried to take you. This is what I do. This is what I'm good at. And right now, I'm the only person in this city you can trust. So you can come with me voluntarily, or I can carry you. Your choice. Amelia looked back at the parking garage, at the blood on the ground, at the life she'd known, suddenly revealed as a carefully constructed lie. One condition, she said. No conditions. Not anymore. One condition, she repeated, meeting his eyes. You tell me why you really agreed to help my father. What you actually want from Hart Industries. Luca's jaw tightened. For a moment, she thought he'd refuse. Then, when you're safe, when I know you're not going to do something stupid like call your father and tell him where you are, then I'll tell you everything. Promise? I promise. She nodded. Okay, let's go. The Brooklyn safe house was an industrial loft overlooking the river, all exposed brick and bulletproof windows. Amelia sat on a leather couch while Marco's wife, Sophia, cleaned the cut on her temple. You're lucky, Sophia said. Her accent was thick Italian, her touch gentle. Could have been much worse. Lucky, Amelia laughed without humor. Right. Luca emerged from a back room, phone pressed to his ear. He ended the call, crossed to where Saturday Meridian Holdings was established 4 years ago. Initial funding came from an offshore account in the Caymans. Transactions since then include payments to 3 different private security companies, all with records of illegal surveillance and corporate espionage. 4 years ago, Amelia's head throbbed. That's when my father announced I'd be joining the board, when I came back from Europe. Someone's been planning this for a while. Luca sat across from her. In the soft lamplight, he looked less intimidating, almost human. Question is why now? The Moretti deal, Amelia said slowly. The board voted on it last week, 7-4. My father and I were part of the 7. My uncle Charles led the opposition. Charles Hart. Your father's younger brother. He thinks Dad's too old, too soft. Thinks the company needs aggressive leadership for the next decade. Amelia touched the bandage on her temple, wincing. If something happened to me, Dad would be devastated. Vulnerable. Easy to push out. Luca nodded. And if it looked like an accident or a random attack, no one would look at internal suspects. Except you did. I look everywhere. Luca leaned forward, elbows on his knees. It's what kept me alive this long. Sophia finished with the bandage, patted Amelia's shoulder. I'll make food. You both need to eat. When they were alone, Amelia said, You promised. Tell me why you're really doing this. Luca was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was different, rougher, like each word cost him something. 15 years ago, my sister was kidnapped. Lucia. She was 14. Amelia felt her stomach drop. The ransom was paid. $2 million. We got her back 3 days later. He paused. Dead. They'd killed her the first night. Kept negotiating just to squeeze more money out of my family. Luca. The people who took her were hired by a logistics company. They needed leverage against my father's organization. Thought a child would break him. His hands clenched. The logistics company was a contractor for Hart Industries, Defense Division. Your father's signature was on the authorization forms. The room spun. Amelia gripped the couch cushions. You're saying my father. I'm saying Hart Industries provided the intelligence that led to my sister's death. Whether your father knew, whether it was rogue employees, I don't know. But the connection is there. So this whole thing, the security deal, helping me, it's about revenge. It was. Luca finally looked at her. When Marco told me about Richard Hart's daughter needing protection, I saw an opportunity. Get close. Find proof. Destroy everything he built. And now? Now I've been following you for 4 days. Watching you fire security teams because they patronize you. Seeing you work 16-hour days because your father doesn't trust you to run anything important. Realizing you're not responsible for sins committed before you were out of college. He ran a hand through his hair. Now I don't know what I'm doing. Except keeping you alive. Amelia stood, paced to the window. The Manhattan skyline glittered across the river. All those buildings where people slept, unaware that everything they believed about their lives could be a lie. I could have died tonight, she said quietly. If you hadn't been there. Yes. Why were you there? Really? Luca joined her at the window. Standing this close, she could smell his cologne, something expensive and understated. Because the last time I ignored a threat against someone I cared about, I pulled her body out of the river. I won't make that mistake twice. You don't care about me. You barely know me. I know you're brave and stupid in equal measure. I know you'd rather die than show weakness. I know you've been hurt before, badly, and you turned that pain into armor. He turned to face her. I know enough. Amelia met his eyes. In the dim light, they were almost silver. Teach me. Teach you what? How to protect myself. How to see threats coming. How to be like you, someone people are afraid to hurt. Her voice shook, but she didn't look away. I won't be a victim again. Not ever. Luca studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. Okay, but we do this my way. No arguing, no shortcuts. You do exactly what I say, when I say it. Deal? And Amelia? He reached out, adjusted her bandage with surprising gentleness. You're already someone people should be afraid to hurt. You just don't know it yet. Over the next 2 weeks, Amelia learned to shoot first at targets, then at moving silhouettes, finally at night in the dark. Luca was a patient teacher, correcting her stance, her breathing, her instinct to close her eyes before pulling the trigger. Pain is information, he said one evening in the basement range. Fear is information. Don't ignore them. Use them. She also learned to fight. Marco taught her practical defense, how to break a hold, where to strike for maximum damage, how to use any object as a weapon. She accumulated bruises like medals. You're not trying to win, Marco explained after she'd landed on her back for the 10th time. You're trying to survive long enough to escape. Big difference. But the most important lessons came from Luca during the quiet hours. How to read a room, identify exits, spot surveillance, how to vary her routine, trust her instincts, recognize when someone was too interested or too familiar. Predators look for patterns, he said. Be unpredictable. They worked side by side, researching her uncle's connections, mapping out the conspiracy. Amelia discovered she had a talent for financial forensics, following money through shell companies and offshore accounts. Luca had a talent for intimidation. 3 different witnesses suddenly remembered crucial details after brief conversations with him. Your sister, Amelia said one night. They were in Luca's office, surrounded by files and cold coffee. Tell me about her. Luca didn't look up from the laptop. What do you want to know? What was she like? Before. He was quiet so long she thought he wouldn't answer. Then, loud. She laughed at everything, drove me crazy, wanted to be a teacher. Used to practice on me I can still recite the periodic table, because she made me quiz her every night. His voice softened. She believed people were basically good, even when evidence suggested otherwise. She sounds wonderful. She was. Luca finally looked at Amelia. You remind me of her sometimes. Not personality, you're much harder, more cynical. But the way you refuse to quit, the way you fight. Is that why you're helping me? Because I remind you of her? No. He stood, came around the desk. I'm helping you because you deserve to live. Because what happened to Lucia shouldn't happen to anyone. And because he stopped. Because what? Because I'm starting to care what happens to you. Which is a problem. Amelia's pulse quickened. Why is it a problem? Because people I care about get hurt. Because I'm not good at protecting what matters. Because you're Richard Hart's daughter, and I spent 15 years hating everyone connected to that name. He was close now, close enough to touch. And because if I cross that line, there's no going back. What line? Instead of answering, Luca stepped back. It's late. You should rest. We have the board meeting tomorrow. But Amelia caught his arm. Don't do that. Don't push me away because you're afraid. I'm not afraid. Liar. She moved closer. You're terrified. Of feeling something. Of losing someone again. Of being human instead of the cold, controlled criminal you pretend to be. Amelia. My turn to teach you something, Luca. Her voice was steady despite her racing heart. You don't have to protect everyone. You don't have to carry every death. And you don't have to be alone just because you think you deserve it. For a moment, his mask slipped. She saw raw pain, longing, fear, all the emotions he buried under cold efficiency. Then he kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was hungry, desperate, like drowning and breathing at the same time. Amelia responded with equal intensity, her hands fisting in his shirt, pulling him closer. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Luca pressed his forehead against hers. This is a mistake. Probably. Amelia smiled. Do you care? No. He kissed her again, slower this time. Not even a little. The next morning, Amelia walked into Hart Industries headquarters wearing a dark suit and determination. Marco and 2 other guards flanked her Luca's team, dressed like corporate security. Her father met her in the lobby. Richard Hart looked older than she remembered, gray and drawn. Amelia. Thank God. Where have you been? I've been trying to reach you. I know about Meridian Holdings, Dad. He paled. What? I know about the attempts on my life. I know about the shell companies. And I know Uncle Charles is behind it. She kept her voice low, aware of the morning crowd. The question is, do you? Richard grabbed her arm, pulled her toward a private conference room. Once inside, he turned on her. What have you done? Who have you been talking to? People who actually want to keep me alive. Amelia pulled free. Did you know? About Charles? I suspected. But I didn't have proof, and Charles is still my brother. Still on the board. He stopped, seeing her expression. You have proof. Enough to bury him and everyone involved. Enough to send them to prison for conspiracy, attempted murder, corporate espionage, fraud, the list goes on. She pulled out a tablet, showed him the files Luca had compiled. This ends today. Either you help me, or I go to the board and the federal prosecutor alone. Richard sank into a chair. If this comes out, the company will survive. It always does. But I won't let you protect him because he's family. He tried to kill me, Dad. Your daughter. And you're worried about stock prices? No, you're right. He looked up, and she saw tears in his eyes. I'm sorry. I should have protected you better. Should have seen it coming. I've been blind. Then help me now. Call an emergency board meeting. Today. We'll confront him together. And if he denies everything, he won't. Amelia glanced toward the door, where Marco waited. I've made sure of that. The boardroom fell silent as Amelia presented the evidence. Financial records, communications, witness statements from the men who'd attacked her in the parking garage. Charles Hart's face went from red to white to red again. This is preposterous, he blustered. Fabricated evidence from criminals, from forensic accountants and federal investigators. Amelia corrected. I've already shared this with the FBI. They'll be here within the hour. But I wanted to give the board a chance to take action first. To show that Hart Industries doesn't tolerate corruption. You're working with Moretti, Charles said. Everyone knows it. This is his revenge for something that happened 15 years ago, and you're too naive to see you're being used. I'm not naive, Amelia said quietly. I'm angry. You tried to have me killed because I wouldn't fall in line, because I challenged your authority, because I'm a woman who refused to be pushed aside. She leaned forward. That was your mistake. Not underestimating Luca Moretti, underestimating me. The board voted unanimously to remove Charles Hart from all positions, freeze his accounts, and cooperate fully with federal investigators. He was escorted from the building by security, not Luca's team, but federal marshals who'd been waiting outside. As the room emptied, Richard approached Amelia. You did the right thing. I did the only thing. She gathered her papers. I'm taking a leave of absence. 3 months. You'll announce I'm working on special projects overseas. But you'll be somewhere safe. Somewhere I can figure out what I want. Who I want to be. She looked at her father. I love you, Dad, but I can't trust you yet. Not after you chose protecting Charles over protecting me. That's going to take time. I understand. His voice broke. I'm sorry. For everything. I know. That's why I'm giving you a chance to prove it. Amelia headed for the door. Don't waste it. Luca was waiting in the parking garage, leaning against a black SUV. When he saw her, something in his expression shifted relief. Maybe. It's done? He asked. It's done. Amelia felt suddenly exhausted. The FBI has him. His assets are frozen. He'll go to trial. Good. Luca opened the car door. Then let's get out of here. Where are we going? Somewhere your father's enemies can't find you. Somewhere Charles's allies can't hire more killers. Somewhere safe. He paused. If you want to come. Amelia looked back at the Hart Industries tower. All that glass and steel built on money and blood and compromises she was only beginning to understand. She'd spent her whole life preparing to inherit it. Now she wasn't sure she wanted it anymore. Will you tell me where? She asked. Upstate. Small town. Old farmhouse. It belonged to my grandmother. Luca's voice was careful, neutral. Lucia and I spent summers there. Before. You're taking me to your family's place. I'm taking you somewhere I trust. Somewhere with good security. And better memories. He met her eyes. That's all. But Amelia understood what he wasn't saying. This was trust. This was showing her something real, something vulnerable. This was Luca Moretti choosing her over his carefully maintained distance. Okay, she said. Let's go. The farmhouse sat on 20 acres of woods and meadow, 2 hours north of the city. It was smaller than Amelia expected. White clapboard, blue shutters, a wraparound porch that needed paint. Beautiful. Inside, everything was old but well-maintained. Family photos on the mantel, worn furniture that smelled like lavender and dust. Luca moved through the rooms like a ghost, touching surfaces, remembering. My grandmother's been dead 8 years, he said. But I keep paying the taxes, hiring someone to maintain it. Couldn't let it go. Because of Lucia. Because it's the last place we were happy. Really happy. He turned to Amelia. I haven't brought anyone here. Not Marco, not business associates. No one. Why me? Because you need somewhere the world can't touch you. And because I need. He stopped, shook his head. I don't know what I need anymore. Amelia crossed to him, took his hand. You need to forgive yourself. For not saving her. For surviving when she didn't. For being human. I don't know how. Then learn. The same way I'm learning not to be afraid. Not to let what happened define me. She smiled. We'll figure it out together. That night they sat on the porch watching fireflies. Luca told her stories about Lucia the time she'd adopted a stray cat and hidden it in the barn for 2 weeks. The summer she'd decided to teach herself piano using YouTube videos and the nearest neighbor had complained about the noise. Amelia talked about her own kidnapping, the thing she never discussed. 3 days in darkness, the smell of mildew and fear, the certainty she would die. The worst part wasn't the fear, she said quietly. It was after, when everyone looked at me differently, like I was broken. Fragile. Something to be protected or pitied. She looked at Luca. You don't look at me like that. Because you're not broken. You're a survivor. There's a difference. What's the difference? Broken things need fixing. Survivors need to decide what they want to build next. Amelia leaned her head on his shoulder. I think I want to build something that matters. Something that helps people like us. Like we were. Like a foundation? For kidnapping survivors? Maybe. I don't know yet, but something real. Not just managing board meetings and stock portfolios. Luca kissed the top of her head. Then we'll build it together. Together, she repeated. I like the sound of that. 2 weeks in the farmhouse felt like 2 years. They fell into a routine morning coffee on the porch, afternoons working on Amelia's foundation plans, evenings cooking together. Marco called daily with updates. Charles Hart had been indicted on multiple charges. 3 other executives had been arrested. Hart Industries' stock had dipped but was recovering. Your father wants to talk, Marco said during one call. Says it's urgent. Amelia glanced at Luca, who was reading on the couch. Tell him I'll call when I'm ready. He says there's something you need to know. About the Moretti situation. Luca's head came up. What situation? He didn't say. Just said it's important. Amelia ended the call. What's he talking about? Luca's expression had gone carefully blank. I don't know. Luca. I don't know, he repeated. But he was lying. She'd learned his tells, the slight tension in his jaw, the way his hands stilled. Before she could push, his own phone rang. He looked at the screen, frowned, answered. Marco. What? His face went white. When? How many? Amelia stood, fear coating her throat. What is it? Luca ended the call, was already moving toward the bedroom. Get dressed. Pack light. We're leaving in 5 minutes. What happened? Your father didn't stop Charles. He stopped a distraction. The real threat is Charles's business partner, Victor Reeves. He's been planning this for months. Luca pulled out a gun safe, started loading weapons. Reeves knows about this place. He's sending people. Now. How would he know? Because your father told him. Luca's voice was ice. Whether intentionally or not, I don't know. But we're compromised. Marco's on his way with backup, but they're 40 minutes out. We don't have 40 minutes. Amelia's training kicked in. She grabbed her go bag, checked the handgun Luca had given her the first week. How many? At least 4. Maybe more. Professional. Better than the parking garage team. Then we fight. No. We survive. Luca checked the windows, saw headlights in the distance. Damn it. They're faster than I thought. Okay. Plan B. Which is? The root cellar. Victorian-era storm shelter. Reinforced walls. Hidden entrance in the kitchen pantry. We lock ourselves in. Wait for Marco. That's not a plan. That's hiding. That's surviving long enough to have a future. Luca grabbed her shoulders. Listen to me. I've lost enough. I won't lose you. So we're going to the cellar. We're going to wait. And we're going to live. Understand? Before she could answer, glass shattered. The front window exploded inward, something canister-shaped bouncing across the floor. Gas grenade. Luca shoved her toward the kitchen. Go. Now. They ran through thickening smoke, Amelia's eyes burning. The pantry door was hidden behind a false wall. Luca pulled it open, revealing narrow stairs descending into darkness. Down, he ordered. More glass breaking. Footsteps on the porch, voices calling to each other, professional and calm. Amelia descended, Luca right behind her. At the bottom, he hit a switch. LED lights flickered on, revealing a surprisingly large space shelves of supplies, a cot, water tanks, an old ham radio in the corner. Luca sealed the entrance, engaged locks that looked far too modern for a Victorian storm shelter. Reinforced 6 months ago. After I knew I'd be bringing you here. You planned for this. I always plan for the worst. He moved to the radio, started making adjustments. Marco will... An explosion overhead. The whole structure shook. Dust rained from the ceiling. They're breaching, Luca said, voice grim. He abandoned the radio, checked his weapons. 3 guns, spare ammunition, 2 knives. You said we were safe down here. Safe from bullets, not from sustained assault. If they have enough explosive, they can collapse the entrance, trap us. He met her eyes, or dig us out. Amelia's mind raced. The radio. Can we call for help? Marco knows where we are. But 40 minutes might as well be 40 hours. Another explosion, closer. We need another option. What option? We're trapped. Luca looked at the ceiling, calculating. Then at Amelia. There's an old drainage tunnel. Runs from the cellar to the property edge. Lucia and I used to use it to sneak out at night. I blocked it years ago for security, but we can unblock it. It's risky. Narrow. We'll be vulnerable during the crawl. If they figure out where we went, better than waiting to be dug out. Amelia pulled the rifle from her bag. Show me. Luca led her to the back of the cellar. Behind a shelf of canned goods was a small wooden door, padlocked and reinforced with steel bars. He started removing the barriers. Above them, another explosion. Louder. The walls shuddered. A crack appeared in the concrete. They're using military-grade breaching charges, Luca muttered. Reeves has serious resources. How long do we have? Minutes. Maybe less. He wrenched the door open, revealing a tunnel barely 3 feet wide, disappearing into darkness. I'll go first. Count to 30, then follow. If shooting starts, stay down. If I die, you're not dying. If I die, he continued, you follow this tunnel all the way to the end. It exits near the county road. Flag down any car, get to the police, tell them everything. Luca. He kissed her, fierce and quick. Don't argue. For once, just trust me. Then he was gone, swallowed by the tunnel. Amelia counted 1, 2, 3 while overhead. Men shouted orders and tools scraped against the cellar door. 28, 29, 30. She went in. The tunnel was worse than she'd imagined. Earth pressed close, roots scraped her back. The smell of damp and decay was suffocating. Amelia crawled, rifle dragging, following the sound of Luca's movement ahead. Behind her, an explosion massive, earth-shaking. The cellar had been breached. They're in. Luca's voice echoed back to her. Keep moving. Don't stop. Her hands found water, thick mud. The tunnel was flooding from somewhere. She pushed through, gagging on the taste of earth and fear. Gunfire ahead. Luca was shooting. They'd found the tunnel exit. Amelia heard him curse, heard return fire. She crawled faster, her lungs burning. Finally, light blessed, painful light. The tunnel opened into a ravine choked with undergrowth. Luca was crouched behind a boulder, firing at figures on the ridge above. 2 were down, at least 3 more remained. Amelia emerged, rolled to cover next to him. Status? They're trying to flank us. Marco's still 10 minutes out. We hold until then. He handed her a spare magazine. Conserve ammunition. Pick your shots. It should have been terrifying. Instead, Amelia felt oddly calm. All the training, all the preparation, crystallizing into this moment. She aimed, breathed, fired. A figure on the ridge fell. Luca glanced at her. Nice shot. You taught me well. They held the position, trading fire with professional efficiency. Amelia lost track of time, could have been minutes or hours. She'd stopped thinking, operating on pure instinct. Then sirens. Multiple vehicles screaming down the county road. Marco's voice over a loudspeaker. Drop your weapons. You're surrounded. The remaining attackers hesitated. One made a break for the woods. Marco's team took him down with non-lethal rounds. The others surrendered. It was over. Luca lowered his gun, shoulders sagging. You okay? I'm alive. Amelia realized she was shaking. We're alive. He pulled her close, and she felt his heartbeat rapid, but steady. Yeah, we are. Marco appeared, surveying the scene. Everyone accounted for. 3 dead, 5 captured. We got Reeves at his office. He's already talking. What did my father know? Amelia asked. He swears he didn't know Reeves was planning this. But he told Reeves where you were, thinking it was safe, that Reeves was helping coordinate your security. Marco shook his head. Reeves used that information to plan the hit. So my father made a mistake, a potentially fatal one, but not a betrayal. Marco looked at Luca. Your call, boss. What do we do with him? Luca was quiet for a long moment. Then, nothing. Amelia decides what happens with her family. Not me. Amelia looked at the farmhouse in the distance, smoke rising from the collapsed cellar. Everything Luca had of his sister, his grandmother, his past destroyed because of her family's sins. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. Don't. Luca turned her to face him. This isn't on you. None of it. Reeves made his choices. Your uncle made his. Your father made his. You're not responsible for their sins. But your house is just a building. The memories are up here. He tapped his temple. They can't take those. Amelia nodded, not trusting her voice. Marco coughed. Boss, the feds are on their way. We should probably decide on a story. The truth, Luca said. All of it. They tried to kill Amelia Hart. We protected her. Self-defense. Your record will be what it is. I'm done running from my past. He looked at Amelia. Time to build something new, right? She managed to smile. Right. 3 months later, Amelia stood in a newly renovated office space in Brooklyn, watching workers install the last pieces of furniture. The Lucia Foundation would open next week, providing support for kidnapping survivors and their families. Luca appeared in the doorway, carrying coffee. Looks good. She would have loved this. I hope so. Amelia took the coffee, leaned against him. Your lawyer called. The DA accepted the deal. Community service, no jail time. Turns out saving a billionaire's daughter and helping take down a corporate conspiracy buys you some goodwill. He smiled. Who knew? And your businesses? Legitimate. All of them. Took some time, but Marco's handling the transition. Luca gestured to the office. I was thinking I could help here. Part-time. I've got experience with security. Threat assessment. You want to work for me? With you. Big difference. He set down his coffee, turned to face her properly. I want to be where you are. Building something that matters. Making something good from all this pain. Amelia felt tears sting her eyes. What about revenge? Your sister, my father. I'm letting it go. Your father's paying restitution to Lucia's memorial fund. Reeves is in prison. The people directly responsible are dead or locked up. Luca touched her face. And I realized something. If I spend my life hating Richard Hart, I'm giving him power over me. But if I build something that helps others, if I honor Lucia by protecting people like she should have been protected, that's power I control. When did you get so wise? I met this woman. She taught me that survivors don't just endure, they build. Amelia kissed him. I love you. I should have said that before. During all the chaos and fear, I love you. I love you too. Even though you're still difficult, even though you still fire security teams you don't like, even though you're the daughter of the man I spent 15 years hating. He smiled. Maybe because of all that, we're a mess. We're survivors. There's a difference. A knock on the doorframe. Richard Hart stood there, looking uncertain. Amelia had invited him, but hadn't been sure he'd come. Am I interrupting? He asked. No. Amelia stepped back from Luca. Come in. Richard entered slowly, looking around. It's impressive. What you've built. What we're building, Amelia corrected. It's just starting. I wanted to apologize. Again. Richard's voice cracked. For not protecting you. For trusting the wrong people. For being blind to what was happening in my own company. I know. Amelia took a breath. And I appreciate it. But words aren't enough, Dad. You need to change. The company needs to change. The way we do business, the way we treat people, it all needs to be better. I've started. Brought in new board members. Hired an independent ethics team. Cut ties with any contractor that has questionable practices. He looked at Luca. And I've made a substantial donation to the Luca Moretti Memorial Scholarship. Full ride for 10 students every year who want to become teachers. Luca's jaw tightened. Thank you. That means something. It's not enough. It'll never be enough. But it's a start. Richard turned back to Amelia. I hope someday you'll come back. Not to the company necessarily. Just back to my life. As my daughter. Someday, Amelia said. When I'm ready. When I trust that you've actually changed. That's all I can ask. Richard nodded to Luca. Take care of her. Always. After Richard left, Amelia and Luca stood at the window, watching the Brooklyn street bustle below. Cars honked. People hurried past. The city lived and breathed around them. We did it, Amelia said. We survived. We built something new. Yeah, we did. Luca pulled her close. So what's next? Next, we help others survive. We change things. We make sure no more Lucias, no more kids get hurt because powerful people don't care. She looked up at him. And we live. Really live. Not just survive live. I like that plan. Good. Because you're stuck with me now. The difficult billionaire's daughter who no one could handle. Except me. Except you. Amelia smiled. Lucky for both of us, you're just as damaged and difficult as I am. Match made in trauma. Match made in choosing to heal. To build. To be better. She kissed him again, softer this time. That's the real story. Not that you handled me, that we chose each other. Despite everything. Because of everything. Luca rested his forehead against hers. Best choice I ever made. Through the window, the city stretched endlessly. Full of danger, yes. Full of people who would hurt them given the chance. But also full of survivors. Full of people trying to build something better from their pain. The Lucia Foundation would open next week. They'd help their first clients, start making a real difference. There would be setbacks, challenges, moments of doubt, but they'd face it together. The Mafia boss who'd learned to forgive. The billionaire's daughter who'd learned to fight. Two broken people who'd chosen to build something whole. In the end, that was all anyone could do. Survive, heal, build, and love. Always love.